308 rounds. As of today, that is the number of rounds I've personally played with Arccos Golf. Really, that tells you everything you need to know. I don't need to elaborate anymore on my thoughts or opinions about Arccos. That number alone should tell you what I think about this product. But that would make for a pretty short and pretty boring video. So today, we're doing a full review of Arccos Caddie. We're gonna be talking about the smart sensors, we're gonna be talking about the smart grips, we're gonna talk about the link. I'm going to go over all of the pros and all of the cons for someone that is thinking about buying Arccos and trying to figure out if it is right for you. Because honestly, it's not right for everybody. It is not a perfect product, but it also allows you to do things that no other product in the world of golf allows you to do. So let's not waste any time, let's jump right into it. Okay, let's get the biggest question out of the way first. What is Arccos Golf? So Arccos Golf are sensors that you put on every single one of your clubs that then tracks every single shot you hit. This pairs with the Arccos app, which has mapped pretty much every major golf course in the world. Not even major, like tens of thousands of golf courses are mapped within the Arccos system. So what happens is you start your round and you hit your driver on the first tee. You walk down the fairway and your next shot, let's say it's a 7-iron. Well, Arccos knows you hit your driver on the tee. It then knows that you hit your 7-iron in the fairway, and it knows the distance between those shots because it's mapped. So it can say, okay, you hit your driver 256 yards. It knows you hit your 7-iron 142 yards. But it also knows that you landed in the fairway. It knows that approach shot landed on the green or missed the green. And so at the end of your round, you have every statistic you could ever imagine about your round of golf. And that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Arccos, but that gives you a pretty good overview of what it can do, and you can start to use your imagination for the different ways that information can be useful. So before we go any further into the features and the usability of Arccos, let's talk about the setup and see if it's actually as user-friendly as they make it out to be. Okay, I lied. Before we talk about the setup, we have to talk about the two different ways that you can use Arccos, and this is going to be the first decision you have to make. Are you going to buy the smart sensors, which are 14 sensors that you screw into the butt of your club, or are you going to use the smart grips, which are exactly what they sound like? They are grips you put on your golf clubs that have the sensors built in. Now there's pros and cons to both of these ways of using Arccos. One of the benefits of the sensors are if you're constantly someone who's changing clubs or you buy a new driver every year, then you don't have to get your club re-gripped every time you want to change it. You basically unscrew your sensor, you screw it into the new club, you repair it, and you're good to go. So personally, in my experience, the sensors really don't affect your usability of your golf clubs on the golf course at all. You screw them into the butt of your clubs, which generally that works really well. They'll stay put. I don't really notice them. Like I've heard some people say the weight throws them off. Like these things are super light. Like chances are you're not a good enough golfer to notice the weight of these. If they get loose, you might notice them on the end of your club, but for the most part, I've had zero issues with the sensors. But with the grips, you don't have to worry about screwing them in. You don't have to worry about them coming loose. You don't have to worry about something sitting on the end of your club that might annoy you as you're hitting it. It's all built in, it's smooth, it's seamless. The problem is if the battery dies or if one stops working for various reasons, yeah, you can go out and you can buy an individual one, but you're still going to have to re-grip the whole club. And if you're like me, I'm not someone who wants to re-grip the clubs myself, so you have to take it into someone, you have to pay them to do it. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass. The price for each of them right now is similar with a couple variations we'll talk about later in this video, so you really just have to decide what the best fit is for you, for your needs. Okay, so setup. The good news is setup is the same regardless of whether or not you choose the sensors or the grips, and it's super easy to do. Basically, all you're gonna need to do is download the Arccos app, you're gonna set up your account, you're gonna go into club pairing mode, and what it's gonna do is it's gonna turn your camera on and it's gonna say point it at the sensor for each club. So it's gonna say driver, and you point your driver sensor at the club and it's going to automatically pair it. Then you do it for your 3-wood, then you do it for your hybrid, then you do it for your 4-iron, and down the line you go. And once you're done, all your clubs are paired, they're gonna stay paired, it's super easy to do, and the whole process only takes about 5 to 7 minutes. Now, one of the big questions I know you're going to have, so let's just kind of get this out of the way early, is how well does it work? Am I gonna have to be pulling out my phone all the time in order to use it? Is it going to be missing shots all of the time? Well, as someone who's played over 300 rounds with Arccos, I'm uniquely qualified to talk about this. So every year, Arccos continues to improve. Every time they roll out new sensors, they get better and better. You're almost at the point where you can basically leave your phone in your pocket, play a full round of golf, and be good to go. But we're not quite there yet. if you use Arccos, basically what I tell people is plan to pull out your phone every 2 or 3 holes just to make sure shots got tracked properly. Sometimes you need to add a penalty stroke manually. If you got a gimme on the green and you didn't actually putt it, then you're going to want to go in and make sure that that is counted. And so by keeping an eye on your phone every couple holes just to make sure everything's accurate, you're going to be good to go. Now, in my experience, assuming all of your clubs are paired properly, Arccos does a surprisingly good job of recognizing every single shot. If you're only using the basic Arccos setup, you have to have your phone in your front pocket, which for some people, that's a deal breaker. Having your phone on you can be a pain in the ass. I get it. For me, I've just gotten used to pretty much always having my phone in my pocket. It's not that big of a deal. And it uses a combination of the sensor itself on your club, as well as the microphone in your phone, the accelerometer in your phone to basically dictate, okay, there was a shot taken. If you take practice swings or if you hit multiple shots from the same area, it will automatically count those as mulligans, so you only have one shot from each spot. Sure, occasionally it's going to miss a shot. It's not perfect, but as long as you're keeping a general eye on your phone and tracking your round, you're going to be able to fix it really easily. It's probably going to take you a couple rounds to get used to using Arccos and understanding, okay, here's how I add a shot, here's how I add a penalty, here's how I edit a shot, or various things like that. But once you've used it for, 2, 3, 4 rounds, it gets to be second nature, and it really doesn't interfere that much with the rounds you're playing. So sometimes I'll do this if I'm playing at a private club where you can't have your phone out. I'll just leave my phone in my pocket, and at the end of the round, once I get back to my car, I'll go through, spend 5 minutes to review it, make sure everything looks accurate, and away you go. But one of the cool things that Arccos has done over the last couple years is they have added some ways where you don't have to leave your phone in your pocket. The most obvious one is with Arccos Link. So you put the link on your belt, and then what it will do is it will automatically track all your shots without the need of your phone. And then when you get back close to your phone, the link relays that information back there, so it updates within the app. So if you're someone who doesn't want to play with your phone in your pocket, then you're definitely going to want to pick up the link. That is the best way to do that, although it is an extra fee. There are bundles you can get, and I'll link to all those below, where you can get, the sensors and the link all together for a reduced price. So that's something to keep an eye out for as you're thinking about buying it. There's also a second way where you can use Arccos if you don't want to keep your phone in your pocket, and that's using your Apple Watch. The Apple Watch for Arccos actually works surprisingly well. So basically, you can use the watch to track all of your shots. It will pair with the app. It'll also give you distances and yardages, which we're going to talk about here in a second. It has a ton of features that work really well. Caveat to that is it can definitely eat up battery life. So if you have an older Apple Watch or an older iPhone, one of the things you'll find is that it will eat battery very quickly. You're going to want to make sure you aren't running anything else in the background. You want to close as many apps as possible while you're using it so that you can get through the full 18 holes. But the user experience is really, really good. Arccos and Apple Watch, I think, is one of the coolest ways to use the product. And if you already have an Apple Watch, it becomes a little bit of a no-brainer to get the sensors as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so we've made it clear that Arccos can track your shots. You can get a bunch of data after the fact, which is great. What we haven't talked about are the Caddie features of Arccos, which are what really truly set it apart from any other product I have ever seen. So the more rounds you play with Arccos, the more it's going to know about your game. It's going to know exactly how far you hit every shot. It's going to know what your strengths are, your weaknesses, and it's going to break all of that down for you to review after the fact to help you practice. But what about while you're playing? So this is where the AI Caddie feature comes in. So you can pretty much go to any shot you're about to hit. You're tracking it in the app. It'll give you the GPS overlay, and you could use it as a really good GPS rangefinder. It's going to tell you the distance to the front, back, center of the green. You can move the pin positions around, and if someone has already played the same course earlier in the day and they've adjusted the pin positions, it will adjust for you, which is a really cool feature. So you can use all that information to get GPS distances just like you would in like a Golf Logics app or a Golf Shot app. But where it takes things a step further is with the AI features. Because Arccos already knows everything about your game, it can make recommendations specific to you. So let's say you're sitting on a par 5, it's the 7th hole, and you're trying to figure out, well, should I hit driver, 3-wood, or should I hit an iron? You hit the Caddie button, and it's going to do a bunch of calculations, and it is going to tell you exactly what club you should use and what it expects you to make given your experience with that club. Not only that, not only is it taking all of your history and your personal information into account, it's also taking in current conditions into account. So it's looking at elevation, it's looking at wind, it's looking at weather, it's looking at humidity, it's looking at close to a dozen different factors about that hole at that particular moment that it's going to factor in to help you figure out what club you should hit. And then it's going to make a recommendation, and it will tell you how many strokes it thinks it's going to take you based on all of those factors to get in the hole. So with your driver, it might say 4.9. So they expect you to make better than par most of the time. If you hit your 7-iron off the tee, it might tell you a 6.8. It's going to predict what your score will be based on all of these factors, and it is legitimately, genuinely useful. Pretty much every time I take Arccos Caddie's recommendation, I end up doing pretty well on a hole, unless I just completely screw it up because, let's face it, I'm not that good of a golfer. But when you factor in the ability to use this as a GPS rangefinder, you factor in the ability to track every shot and get statistics that previously only PGA Tour pros were able to get about their game, and you factor in the Arccos Caddie and the AI features, all of a sudden this becomes one of the most interesting, fun, and useful tools in the world of golf, as far as I'm concerned. Hey, real quick, is this valuable? Maybe subscribe? Just throwing this out there. If the video is useful, maybe hit subscribe. It would help me out. I would love you forever. And okay, back to the video. Okay, so we've talked about why I love using Arccos Golf during my round and some of the benefits it provides there, but what does it do with all of that data you have? How is it actually going to make you a better golfer? So over the course of the last 10 years or so, we have seen the strokes gain methodology get a lot of traction. So essentially this is saying for your driver or for your approach shots or your short game, how many strokes are you gaining compared to an average golfer versus how many are you losing? So if you're gaining 2 strokes on your putting, that means you're putting pretty well. If you're losing 3 strokes on your driver, that means you probably should practice your driver. So Arccos has integrated all of this strokes gained information into the app. So what you can do is you can compare, say, your last 5 rounds to an average 7 handicap golfer. And you can see exactly how far a 7 handicap would be driving and where you compare. You can see how accurate their approach shots are. You can see how often they're hitting the green. You can see how close their approach shots are getting to the green. And you can see exactly where you're falling in comparison. It's also going to go in and it's going to make recommendations for, different practice routines you can do based on your game and your strengths and weaknesses. This is super powerful for data nerds that want to dig into every single aspect of their game and be able to pinpoint what their issues are and how to improve them. There's certainly other shot trackers on the market, but in my experience, really none of them come close to the information you get from Arccos, the accuracy and the ease of use with it, and honestly just the presentation, the way the app looks, the graphs, everything about it is really top notch. So, okay, it's clear I'm a little biased. I love Arccos. I've used it for years. I love the product. I think it is great. But it's definitely not for everybody. So let's talk about who it's not for and what some of the drawbacks are. So first off, I think the biggest drawback and the biggest reason not to buy it is if you're someone who doesn't want more technology on the golf course. If you really just want to be able to play around and not think about anything and not worried about your phone and Bluetooth and pairing and all that stuff, then Arccos may not be for you. While it's definitely gotten better, and like I said, you can, for the most part, stick your phone in your pocket and not have to worry about it until after the round if you want, you're still going to be best off if you are checking it occasionally. Or you might be the person that's pulling it out on every shot to get all your distances or to get your AI caddy recommendations. It's still a piece of technology that is going to kind of, not take over every round of golf you play, but it's going to be a presence in every round of golf you play. So if you don't want to deal with that technology and you don't want to deal with the pain of that, then it might not be for you. It's also not perfect. Even though 98% of my shots are tracked properly, every once in a while it misses one. Every once in a while you got to go back in and edit it. Every once in a while you'll find that if you're playing a really tight golf course, it might think that you're on one hole when you're on a different hole. Issues like this, in my experience, happen pretty rarely, but they do happen. And so what I've seen is some people, they might have 1 or 2 issues like that in their first round or 2, and then all of a sudden be like, this product's horrible, I'm not dealing with it, it's too much. If you're going to jump into Arccos, I would say give it at least 5 rounds. If after 5 rounds you're not happy with it, you don't think it's the right thing for you, I totally understand that. But I think it takes 5 rounds to really understand exactly how it works, how to use it without having it, interfere too much with your round, how to get the most out of it, and how to get enough data so that you can actually get useful information after the fact. So like I said, if all that technology just seems like too much for you, then you might want to skip Arccos. Also, we've talked about this in our Bushnell Launch Pro video. Basically the way of the world these days is you buy a hardware product and there's probably going to be a subscription that comes along with it. And that honestly kind of sucks. that's going to annoy a lot of people, but that is the case with Arccos as well. So whether you buy the sensors or you buy the grips, chances are you're going to pay around $200 for them. You might find them on sale, get them a little bit cheaper. We have a coupon code. You can save 15% off using our code that is below, by the way, just throwing that out there. The grips might be a little bit less or a little bit more depending on what type of grips you get. But the point being, you're going to spend around $200. For your first year, the Arccos Caddie membership is free. You're going to get to use all the features for free. But then after that, you're going to have to pay, it's like $155. I think it's $12.99 a month. You can only pay this annually. It comes out to $155. And that's just to use the service. You can't start a new round unless you are a member. But in my experience, this is one membership fee that I think is well worth it. For the amount of information you're getting, for the amount of tools you're getting to improve your game, for the AI Caddie features, for the price of one decent round of golf a year, you're getting access to use all of this stuff, and I think it is great. Okay, I get this video has gone on far too long, but before we wrap this up, I want to talk about, and I can't believe I haven't talked about this already, one of my favorite features and one of the main reasons I continue to use Arccos. And that is the ability to go back and look at every single shot and every single round that I've played throughout my golf travels. So recently I was watching the Open Championship and I got a text from my mom and she said, "Hey, what did you shoot when you played St. Andrews?" I opened up my Arccos, I went back, found out that I shot an 86. I was able to go back and look at the road hole and see that directly into the wind, I went driver, 3-wood, 8-iron, and then made a 14-foot putt for par. That was one of the most memorable holes of golf of my life. I was able to go back to a round at Champions Retreat when I was down at the Masters a few years ago and see the best shot I ever hit when I holed out from 165 yards for eagle, or when I made a par 3 at TPC Sawgrass on the 17th Island Green. All of these really memorable golf moments, I can go back and I can get all of the data about those rounds, which I just find to be fascinating and super interesting. So as you travel more, as you play more golf, as you play more golf courses, you don't have to rely on your memory quite as much. You can go back and you can get all of the data because Arccos has it saved for you. And I think that's really, really cool. Okay, so all that to say, final thoughts. I'm not even really going to pretend to be unbiased with Arccos because I've been using it since 2014. It's honestly added so much value to my golf experience over the years that I can't imagine not having it in my life. Yes, it's $200 for the sensors. You're going to pay an extra $150-ish a year for the membership. That's a decent amount of money. Yes, it's not perfect. It can get in the way of some of your rounds. It occasionally will miss shots. You're probably going to have to spend a little bit more time on your phone and checking things and keeping up with the app and everything. But for the most part, it's really good. But it's still not perfect, so it's not going to be for everybody. I know there's going to be people in the comments below that said, "Oh, I tried it and it didn't work and it got in the way and whatever." That's fine. I totally get that. It is definitely not for everybody, but like I said, I wouldn't have played over 300 rounds with it if it wasn't an excellent product and really, really valuable. So take all that for what it's worth. My name's Sean Ogle. I'm the founder of this thing here at Breaking 80, where we do cool tech product reviews and golf course reviews. If you liked this, maybe give it a thumbs up. Go hit the subscribe button. We're still a new channel. We're just starting this thing out, so every single subscribe is super valuable. Also, if you were thinking about buying Arccos, we've got a coupon code below where you can save 15% on anything on the site. And if you have questions about it, if you have questions about my personal experience, if you're still on the fence, drop a comment below. I'll do my best to answer every single one because, like I said, I've used it a lot. With that, I hope you have an excellent day, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.